Speak. By the... Stop right there, criminal scum!
Hello there my RPG lovers and welcome to another video. Open world role-playing games usually have a couple of options for dealing with crime. More than often these systems are very simple with no real depth. This depends on the game of course, but here we're gonna focus specifically on open world RPGs. It makes the most sense that these type of games have strong repercussions for committed crimes if there are any civilized communities in the world. While it's definitely important for immersion, it should also have an impact on crime-related playstyles like thief, assassin or anything in between. Morrowind was a big turning point in my opinion when it comes to crime systems in open world RPGs. Oblivion and Skyrim used the same formula for handling crimes, but they also changed, added and removed some features. One really interesting mechanic that only Morrowind had was items ownership, even though it was kinda underdeveloped. Morrowind knows the owner of every item in the game, and this becomes important only in few scenarios. For example, if you stole something from a merchant and try to sell him that same item, he will immediately report your crime. This mechanic was nowhere to be found in the sequels because Bethesda revamped the system. In Oblivion there was an attribute called responsibility that determined the lawfulness of NPCs. If merchants had lower responsibility value, you could sell them all stolen goods. In Skyrim, they removed this system and just made all regular merchants ignore your stolen goods. However, you could get a perk called Fence that allows you to sell stolen items to any merchants you have invested in. That's just one interesting example of this specific mechanic that changed over the years in Elder Scrolls games, and we're yet to see how this will work in their next game, but there are more important things to talk about. I'm more interested in features that affect everyone in the world and not just the player. This would require a decent AI system and randomly generated events in the world. Scripted events are nice, but they are always the same, so they become boring really fast. Oblivion was definitely really ambitious, and one of the unique features in that game was NPC crime mechanic. It's one of the reasons for the wonky NPC behavior, but if someone could take the same approach and work on it, that would be really interesting to see. That's what I meant by affecting everyone in the world and not just the player. The same responsibility attribute was responsible for NPC behavior. NPCs with low responsibility would steal food and they could get caught by the guards. However, they couldn't end up in the jail for their crimes like the player. If they don't have the money to pay the bounty, the guards will just kill them. This was far from a perfect system. There are some hilarious scenes that can occur, but I really wish to see something similar but improved. Imagine if the guards could actually arrest NPCs if they don't resist and send them to jail. Every once in a while you could see someone getting caught and arrested. But what if you had enough influence as a Thane to get them out of the prison or something similar? Of course, if you decide to abuse your power like this, it should have some consequences. One really interesting thing related to this topic is how Mountain Blade Bannerlord plans to deal with the certain crimes you commit. The whole system looks similar to Skyrim to be honest, but there is something that caught my attention. If you're a vassal of a kingdom where you have committed crimes, you may be able to exert some influence to have the charges dropped. However, your fellow lords might see this as a dishonorable action which can adversely affect your relations with them. If you are the ruler of the faction, then congratulations, you just played yourself. You can ignore the charges for as long as you like. After all, who will enforce them? However, the happiness and prosperity of your kingdom will take a hit. Oh, and your honorable lords will hate you. That last part is important. You can choose to abuse your power, but other lords will hate you. This same logic could be applied to future Elder Scrolls games and similar open world RPGs. But let's not stray too far away. There are more interesting crime features in Oblivion that we didn't see in Skyrim. I understand why they didn't try to implement NPC crimes, but there is no reason to not include guild expulsion feature. You could get expelled from a guild in Oblivion permanently if you got suspended 3 times. It was one more thing that just made sense. But it's not like Skyrim didn't have some crime features that we couldn't see in past Elder Scrolls games. There was a bounty collector that you could encounter if you have a high bounty, or hired dogs that could be sent by the victim of the theft or a relative of the deceased. You will find a note on one of them that says who paid them, but the note will not affect your relationship with that NPC. But why even include this if that's the case?
Divine smiling.
There's nothing a man can do that I can't do better, whether it's serving drinks or slaying trolls.
It seems like they wanted to make this really in-depth, but gave up somewhere in the development. However, this game had some interesting ways of escaping different jail cells and a couple of more scenarios with the guards that are related to crimes like standing by a dead body, dropping your weapon, and so on. Things like unprovoked assaults and stealing are pretty straightforward systems, and I don't think I need to talk a lot about this. It's good enough, you can end up in the jail and serve your time while your skill progress resets as a penalty, but like I said, I would like to see more in-depth jail system that affects everyone. Even though other open world RPGs don't have complex crime systems, there are some interesting ideas worth mentioning. Gothic 3, for example, had an interesting idea of dealing with theft. Even if no one saw you steal something in a city, there is an invisible meter that fills up as you steal items. I don't remember how exactly does it work, but if you're stealing stuff like crazy, the next time you walk by a guard...
Stop! Some valuable things have gone missing here. Do you know anything about that? No. We're watching you.
If you continue stealing after this, the next time this happens to you, you can attempt a bribe, talk your way out of it, or provoke. How successful you'll be with these options depends on your skills. They are basically skill checks. But since there are no jails in this game, if you don't get away with it, they will beat you up and take your gold. Oh yeah, and your weapon. After this, the names of most NPCs turns to orange, which means the next time you steal even one item in this city, you'll trigger the same dialogue. Here comes the logical part. If you're new in the city and things start disappearing a lot, it's logical to think that you're responsible. Blame the new guy, right? But if you have some of these skills required for skill checks, that probably means that you played the game a bit and you're not that new in the city, so you can get away with it, right? Another big feature that I would really like to see is a disguise system. You should be able to get away with crime or sneak into a city while wearing some form of disguise. Of course, there should be some repercussions for this. Maybe the guard could stop you and ask you some questions or something even more in depth, otherwise it could be easily exploitable. Greedfall had a good idea for this. There were areas guarded by a certain faction and you could move freely in those zones if you wear some armor related to that faction, otherwise you would get attacked. But this could improve a lot, which could make certain playstyles like Thief or Assassin way more enjoyable. The thing that ruined the immersion every time I played as a sneaky thief in Skyrim is the fact that NPCs recognize you no matter what helmet you wear.
Wait, I know you.
I think there should be something to prevent this. Your identity should be discovered only after you get caught stealing or attacking someone. There's always a big problem of exploiting these mechanics, but I'm sure that developers could think of something to prevent that. Then again, if you want to find loopholes in a single player game, you always will, that's not the point. One more thing worth mentioning when it comes to crime system in Skyrim are bounties. All bounties are tied to a certain hold, which was a great idea. People in other cities have no idea that you committed a crime somewhere else, but this feature could also see some improvements. For example, if you become a notorious criminal, the word should get around. This is where that disguise system should also come into play. Maybe there should be posters in cities with your head on it, if you forgot to cover your head completely with some headgear. There are just so many ways of improving this system, we could talk for hours. I tried not to mention anything crazy that is really hard to pull off, but all of this should be possible to implement. Tell me your ideas about this in the comments below. What was the game that had the best crime system in your opinion and why? Don't forget to subscribe for more content like this and maybe click on that bell icon so you don't miss any future uploads. My channel is based around RPGs, I do in-depth guides, news and reviews. Special thanks to my Patreons and YouTube exclusive members, and if you as well want to become one of them, all the links are in the description. I'll see ya in the next one.